think we may have a new alternate participating tonight too, but I'm not sure. So, how are you, Chris?
All right, I'm adjusting well.
Good.
Thanks to all the helpful people around.
Good. We can rush that a second to make sure everything's up to snuff.
What do you think the name of the
Is that new to us? Yes.
Now it's a garage.
Okay, yes, the public hearing. Okay, thank you, Pat. So we're good. Okay, everybody else ready to go? Okay, we will call the meeting of the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board of the Village of Cooperstown to order. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding 186 Main Street and the demolition of the garage at 186 Main Street. I am going to open the public hearing regarding the proposed demolition. Is anybody here to speak to the proposed demolition of the garage at 186 Main Street? If anybody is, please make themselves known. Otherwise, we'll leave the public hearing open and wait to discuss the construction of the new garage for a little bit and start on the regular agenda. Item number 1 is 17 Eagle Street. Is anybody here to speak on behalf of 17 Eagle? I don't see CR either. I just wasn't sure if somebody was representing him. Okay, we'll go on to item number 2, 50 Walnut Street. This could be a very short meeting. Let's try number 3, 22 Delaware Street. Would you like to come up and tell us about your project? Okay. Just so people can hear you when you're speaking.
Okay.
Okay. So, and actually us.
Okay.
Yeah, right there is good.
Okay.
It's all new to us too.
So we own a home at 22 Delaware Street. We do not have a fenced-in backyard, and we are requesting approval to fence in our backyard. We have 2 dogs and a dog next door to, actually dogs all around. But our dogs are not trained off leash, and I don't feel that an electric fence would be helpful with our surrounding pets. So I did speak with our neighbors. I brought signatures. I apologize that I didn't get them to you before you sent things in. So I did get our neighbors that abut our properties, discussed it with them, and got signatures for sign off on that. And then I also made a very crude drawing to kind of show the buildings that we have in our area. We have a garage and we use it as a storage shed, but it was used as a workshop, I believe, by the previous owner. And so I can hand this around. This sort of, we would like to bring a gate from right up to the house, obviously, so that there would be no openings for our dogs to get out. There would be a gate on one side and a gate over by the driveways so that there would be access for snow maintenance and grass and lawn care maintenance as well. The fence is exactly the same fencing that is next door at 20 Delaware Street. They had fencing put in, I think, about a year and a half ago, and we thought it was really nice fencing. So we got information. It's a local company. It's with Boss Landscaping. And again, it would match up completely to their fence that they have.
So which sections are you putting in?
Well, we would like to, currently we have no fencing except 4 or 3 fences from neighboring houses. So their fence is sort of what makes up the perimeter right now. So we would be looking to start at the side of the house by the patio, bring it down the edge of the property there towards the back, and there would be some space in between our property and the other fencing, just in case there was a need to, do any alteration or fixing. It would go to the end of our, again, we use it as a storage building. There's a space back here that we felt would be best because there are a couple of trees on our neighbor's property and we didn't want to get involved in cutting roots and things like that. So Boss Landscaping felt that it was appropriate to sort of stop at the edge of the building, not disturb the trees here, and then pick up again at the front corner of the building and then up parallel to our neighbor and then across to the front of our garage on that side.
So pretty much the whole perimeter of your property.
Exactly.
You're not abutting the neighbor's fence and using that as part of it.
No, we're wanting to keep it a little bit separate. Like I said, one of our neighbors was, just wanting to make sure that we weren't going to be pressed directly up against anyone's fencing. Yeah, and that way, if their fence has an issue or if our fence had an issue, there would be space to get in there.
How much space?
That I don't know. It would probably be, I think, probably about a foot.
Can I ask where the existing fence is on this map? Is it along this side or?
So the neighbor's property fencing, the 20 Delaware that we're looking to match up, their fencing kind of starts here and they really would not be parallel to us. They have one piece that kind of juts out that we would meet up to here. The neighbor at 78 Beaver has a white vinyl fence that runs the back of her property. And then 80 Beaver, Ellen Tillapaw is my back neighbor, and they have a chain link fence that runs the, like the edge of the back. And then the Morgans are next door to us at 20 Delaware, and they have a fence around their entire property, but we would be looking at just from the front of our garage to the front of the building. The building is, again, there's probably about 3 feet between our garage and the building and the Moni and Morgan's fencing. So there's plenty of space in there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was curious. Yeah, so in fact, almost all of this region already has a fence around it.
Everything except this front part of our yard has fencing. So 20 Delaware is entirely encased with the fencing that we're proposing. 78 Beaver, they've got fencing. I don't know if theirs goes all the way around the yard, but it definitely comes between both houses on Beaver and around ours. It doesn't completely encase their yard. And then Ellen Tillapaw it doesn't close up all the way at the back of her house, but she does have fencing for each section. And then the Moni's is completely encased with their fencing.
Any other questions? It's a pretty high fence, which I'm not speaking to other than to say to you, Chris, any other boards need to weigh in because of the height, or are we good?
As I understand, we're good.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Any other questions?
Well, I just have a question about the Morgan's fence. I don't think we ever saw an application for it, did we?
Depends on the height of the fence.
It's 5'8", matching yours?
The Patrick's fence?
No,
Morgan's.
Oh, their fence is short,
Okay,
and I
so
don't know, they've lived there before we moved there, so I'm not really sure.
So,
But their fencing goes around the entire perimeter of their yard.
okay.
But theirs is probably about,
If it's under 4 feet, then we wouldn't have seen a permit request.
yeah, I couldn't guess.
24 has a very high fence, which I think we also never saw. There's at least 2 in my neighborhood that.
It depends on how early it was put in, probably.
It was put in recently.
Okay.
I believe that 20 Delaware they were the ones that told us about this process. And
So they're probably under
Yeah.
4 feet. Okay.
so I'm not, again, I don't want to speak for someone else, but
It doesn't stand out in my mind, and I go up and down the stretch all the time, so But you had said that you were matching it, which made me wonder, okay,
Mhm.
but it's not matching it, because it's not matching it in height, yours is taller.
Well, theirs is actually the same height that we're looking at, like, I know we're looking at like 5'8". That's my understanding, and that's what we had requested of Boss. Again, so we have dogs on all sides, and I feel that we've got 2 dogs, a 3-year-old and a puppy, and the dogs that are around us, Tillapaw's dog, they have an electric fence, and our dogs, like to look at the fence, through the fence at her. One of the other dogs is very excitable, and I feel that if I had a fence that matched that height, that there's a potential for the dog to come over, and I don't want that, so.
And then the fence you're proposing is wood, unpainted, just
Correct.
as in the picture.
Right, it's treated, unfortunately, I can show you on my phone, it's like it's a treated wood, and,
A simple cap on top.
right,
And you know that the rules with the fence is that the kind of unfinished side faces in and the
correct,
finished side faces out.
correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So,
Thank you, Pat.
whereas the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board has made the following findings concerning the property as
22 Delaware.
22, right?
22.
Right. Delaware. The proposed application is 22 Delaware. A, the public hearing is not required. B, the requirements of CEQA have been met. That's true. And C, the structure is not listed as contributing to the Summerglass Historic District.
Correct. The fence is not listed.
So
The house is listed.
The house is
Is it?
listed, and
Yeah.
the house is contributing, yeah,
Yeah,
It
the
is
fence would
contributing?
not be, but
Okay, well, then it is contributing to
yes.
Right.
well,
this. Regarding work to be done at 22 Delaware, the following principles were considered. I guess it would be 2A, B, 3, D. I think that's it.
thank you. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dave. Any discussion?
I have one thing to say about the proliferation of very tall fences that are absolutely solid, that are occurring throughout the village. I think we were looking at a maintenance problem within the next 5 to 10 years, and it's just something that it isn't historic to have such high fences. Fences were a bit lower and intended not to be these solid fences that basically make you begin to feel like you're in a Muslim community, in the Muslim part of the world where everybody's house faces in rather than facing out. I worry about it, but that's all I'm going to say. So I think it's I think the problem, it's an increasing problem that's got a long-term maintenance problem in the community. So I just want to put that in there as something that should be in our minutes.
I understand. Okay, thank you. Ms. Votes yes.
David, yes. David, yes.
I'm gonna vote no, I'm sorry, I'm tired, I'm really getting worried about it, but that part of the town that part of my neighborhood is just beginning to, it's like everybody's got their own little box. So, I'm gonna say no. It doesn't affect your application, you will get your fence, it's just it's a voice saying, I'd like to see us be a bit more mindful of this as neighbors relative to one another.
May I respond to
Sure,
that?
absolutely.
So I think that if no one had animals, or if animals were, met all criteria, I think that would be totally appropriate.
Yeah.
But I feel that when people have dogs, and dogs are different, dogs may not get along, And so in terms of privacy, yes, it would be nice to have a closed off yard so that I don't have to go outside every time my puppy has to go to the bathroom. But really, ultimately, part of it is for safety for my pets. So I just want that kind of in there as well. I want to be able to protect them, and unfortunately, a 4-foot fence with a large dog on the other side is not much protection.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so we had everybody voting yes except for Jesse, so you got that. Okay, so you'll get your permit from Chris and you can move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, it might take about a week or
5
possibly
days.
2. The goal is 5 business days.
Okay, all
Um,
right, great.
but,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I appreciate your time, and do I need to leave these with you?
Sure, I'll take, yeah, I'll add them to the file.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
I can't find my files. That's why I keep, I know, I very carefully put them all on the phone. And
No
then
worries.
I'm doing stupid.
Well, it's brave to try to read my phone. Okay, has anybody come in to speak regarding the demolition of the garage at 186 Main Street since we started the meeting? Okay, we'll go through another application. Anybody come in regarding 17 Eagle? Regarding 50 Walnut? Okay, we're gonna move on to 14 Delaware Street. Is anybody here regarding 14 Delaware Street? All right. Okay, we're gonna hit number 5 on the agenda, 35 Nelson. Is anybody here? Yay! Woo, goodness.
And you got to me so quickly, too.
It really is, you won the H-Carb lottery.
I know,
Because
I'll
sometimes
take it.
number 4 is here till 6 o'clock. So
Well, I'm happy then.
please tell us about your project.
Sure, so I'm actually here for 2. This first one, 35 Nelson Ave. What happened was these clients were in closing on this house and the husband had a stroke. So what they're looking to do is have us create space on the main living area for a bedroom and a full bathroom. We're trying to be as mindful as possible of what this is gonna look like from the outside. So if you have the documents in front of you, on the first page, I took pictures of it from the outside. It's page A1 if you're looking at it. Right now, there's 2 quite tall windows, and what we're proposing that we do is shrink those windows up to a smaller, more bathroom appropriate size. And we're actually taking note from what's on the existing structure now. So you'll see both to the left and to the right, there are small windows, and we're gonna mimic those. So they're gonna be at the same height, same size, same grid pattern, 2/2. There's even a big trim board there at the top that we're gonna line them up with. So honestly, I think it'll look more architecturally accurate anyway. But that's that first proposal, is changing those bathroom windows. The second one on A2 is taking the screened-in porch. I also included exterior photos of that. And what we're gonna try to do is replace where there are double hung looking screens with double hung windows. So we're gonna keep all of the same dimensions, same height. We're just gonna frame inside where the screens are and put Marvin windows in there instead. Same height, same width. The only place that you're gonna see a little bit more framing is at the corner, because they have kind of an a column detail that we just have to frame in to get our windows to fit, which you can see from the outside. There's like a small column there that will just block out. You can also see that in my 3D model of it, that corner will be filled in so that we can get windows. But from the exterior, it should look like it does now, just double hung windows instead of full screen.
And will the screen door that faces to the rear, will that be replaced with a window?
We're actually gonna keep that a door, but it will be an actual door instead of just the screen. We're
So-
even gonna keep the little transom above it, so that, again, just trying to keep the look of the house.
Is the transom currently a screen as well?
It is.
So you'll replace
It'll just
it
all
with
go to
a
window.
And then the windows, are they going to match the grid pattern, the fenestration, on the main house?
So I have these shown as double hung windows because that's what the screens look like now. They have that sort of split look to them. And I'm just trying to, for continuity purposes, keep it the way it looks now. They are very eager to basically tie into the look, but if you were to prefer another grid pattern, I'm sure I could ask them.
I didn't pay attention to, are they 2/2s on the rest of the house, or are they more divided
There's
lines?
a mixture. Some of them are 2/2, which is 4, like we're putting in the bathroom. Some of the newer ones that are in the kitchen, they're like 6/1. Those are a little bit more current, but there is a variety throughout the house.
The front and sides of this house are extremely intact. I've always hankered after this house.
Yes,
Actually.
it is a great house.
It's a really handsome building.
Yeah, and they're very eager to keep the aesthetic the
Yeah,
same.
and it's apparent that you're trying to do that.
Yes.
And on the back, I have less trouble with making some changes. I think that those full height windows were about that being part of the kitchen space to start with.
Right, we're actually, I think, returning it to more of what it would have originally had than those big windows, which feel a bit more modern.
So tell us about the Marvin windows. Which kind of model of Marvin windows are you?
Typically we do the Marvin Integrity windows.
Paintable.
They are paintable, yeah, these would be white interior and exterior, but they are paintable, absolutely.
And then, do you know what you're doing for the door?
We have not selected a specific door, no. Typically we do the Marvin door as well, so that it all matches.
When you do know which door you'd like to use, you'll have to come back next month so we
Okay.
can review that.
No problem.
Okay, or when you're ready, but we need to review that as well.
Okay.
And then you'll put a Marvin solid window above the door? And the bathroom windows are also Marvin.
Yes.
Are they casement?
No, at that size, we only can do awning windows, so those are 2 awning windows.
Any other questions, folks? Dave? Pat?
What's the nature of the column at the corner of the porch? Are you keeping the column and engaging the timbers that come next to the between the window and the column, or are you replacing the column altogether?
So we're essentially just boxing it in. We're enclosing it so that we can get insulation in that corner, because there's like a column here and a column here. So we're boxing it in from both sides so that we can insulate that space in between.
What are you using for insulation? Is it something that would be reversible if someone wanted to go back to having
We
those
could do
columns?
something like Roxol so that it could just be pulled out as opposed to spray foam.
Right.
Right, that way they would be preserved inside that if somebody were to want to return it. Mhm.
I would urge reversibility for
Okay.
that rather than having it become part of a glob.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Maybe save the screens too. if they're willing
Yeah,
to.
so this house has a full basement and a big garage where they've saved a few things already. Unfortunately, some things the previous owner tore out, which is very sad, but these people are very eager, like I said, to save everything. So encourage them to keep it in the basement or garage.
I suspect when built, the house probably didn't have screens. I suspect they were open
I think it was
because of the
open, too.
column arrangement.
Yep.
But screens are nice, and if you have them already made, you can put them back in. So,
Did you have any other questions, Pat? Okay. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I can make a motion. In reviewing this application for work at 35 Nelson Avenue, the H part has considered the compatibility of the proposed changes to the building. And we find that it follows, we approve under principles of compatibility that it is generally appropriate to the current building, the scale is correct. Texture and composition of building materials doesn't really apply, but it's a visually compatible change and helps to maintain the appearance of the property while making it work for a particular situation. So.
And 5,
And 5, yes. Presumably that there'll be a little insulation in the roof of that room as well.
Yeah, yes.
So you're gonna make it a 4-season room.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, yes, 5 applies, and that'll be true if the bathroom changes too. Okay. Anything else?
Second.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, any discussion? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Jesse, yes.
David, yes. David, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Do you want to go on and do number 41, Nelson? Are you offering a package deal on Nelson Street?
I would love to just keep right on going. Okay, next door neighbor, almost, at 41 Nelson. This is, I'm sure you all know this house. It's a big Victorian. They just did a bunch of landscaping out front on Nelson. And basically what's happened is in the backyard, they have a back porch, not original, but a back porch that's been added on, and it's essentially rotting off of the building. So what they'd like to do is replace the rotten parts now with a new structure. Same footprint of that back deck, but it would be enclosed. The purpose for them serving as a mudroom. There is a sleeping porch above the deck now, which they cannot save because it's very rotten, but we are gonna rebuild it as is so that we're keeping that architecturally how it was. So the exterior views of this new enclosure where the deck is now, you can see on A1, I've drawn it. So that second level is all the sleeping porch that will be rebuilt as is there now. And on the first level, we are gonna tie in architectural details that are on the house now. So same pitch on that shed style roof, same siding. It is a novelty wood siding, which we will be doing as well, matching both material and color. In the gables, there is currently a cedar shake detail. We will be copying that as well. So in our new gable that we're creating, you can see that in this kind of first one right here, that little gable, we're gonna copy the detail that's in the existing house and do the shake there instead of the siding. We'll also be doing a shingle, same color as what we see there now. Windows, new windows will also be Marvin Integrity, like I mentioned for the last project, and I'm picking up on the same size and spacing as you see in the rest of the house. So I'm trying to make that feel cohesive as well. So you can see, like in this first drawing, these are 2 existing windows, that's our new one. Same at the back of the house. So structurally, that's where I'm getting those, that look from. And then additionally, they'd like to put a new deck on the side. You can see in the side yard, it's on the south side. They're adding a 19-foot deck into their quite large side yard. You can see that in plan view on page A2, kind of how that deck comes off of that mudroom, powder room addition. That deck, the yard slopes down, so at this upper end, the deck is just a single step down, won't need a railing, but because the backyard slopes, when it gets over that 30 inches, you'll see an all wood railing. There is a railing detail currently on the side porch that we will be replicating on this new deck, as well as the recreation of this kind of rotten part, this entry deck you're seeing here. This is just getting rebuilt, same footprint as is, but again, because it's rotten, we're just replicating what's there now. On the back right now, there's a mixture of stone foundation and lattice work, so we are, again, recreating that. So anywhere on the deck where we're seeing it lifted, we will be repeating that lattice detail. And on our new, where we're enclosing that deck, like on the mudroom, we are doing a stone ledge so that we can tie into the stone look of what is there now.
And again, the windows are,
Marvin Integrity, these ones are 1/1, because surprisingly, that's actually what is in this house now. We were all kind of surprised by that. You think it'd have all those divided lights, but that's what's there now, so that's what we're picking up on, is the 1/1 double hung windows.
and then all of the siding will be wood siding, nothing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, all matched to what's there.
Your deck materials and lattice wood as well, or?
Yeah, we're planning on doing cedar for
Okay.
those, for the decking.
And then the roof shingles to match existing?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
The spindles on the railing at the very back of the house,
Mhm.
are you keeping them?
So right now, the back railing is actually just flat and square. It does not have the same detail that the front has. The front has.
Does that those turn things?
Oh, I guess I'm talking about the lower part. So what's there now is rotten, so we will be recreating everything new, but we do have a full woodworking shop, so we're gonna be able to recreate all of the trim molding details, all of the spindle details, that we see
Because
there now.
spindles, I think, are modern, and far too skinny for the house.
Yeah, so the front, you'll notice in the front yard actually, that deck has like a much more round, like turned look. Whereas the backyard is, like I was just mentioning, it has the square flat pieces, it has the kind of skinny ones that almost feel more 70s. So in my mind, it would be something that, I guess I picture more of a modern square look, but that would certainly be something that when we have the design of the railing, we could come back for.
That would be ideal.
Mhm.
So if you could define that more, that would be super.
Also, in that same picture, are you planning on replicating that lattice directly under that porch?
We're not replicating that lattice, no.
Good.
There's actually two different types of lattice, and that one, again, it feels like maybe, I don't know why, but to me it feels very like 70s with those thin spindles and that lattice. It doesn't feel
Right.
original and doesn't tie into what's on the other porch.
Right.
So no, not
The
intentionally
spacing is much
replicating.
wider from.
Say that again?
The spacing
Right,
is
feels
much
wrong.
wider.
Any other questions?
The email mentioned or asked about demolition and whether public hearing was required.
Yeah, so I had asked about that because we are taking off, I mean, it's a deck that is being taken off, but I was just at the meeting a couple meetings ago where was first on the agenda, was tearing down their garage and replacing it, so I just wanted to know, I had asked Jackson if he thought we'd have to
And we do require
circle back
public
for a
hearings for
public
the
hearing.
garage. We do require public hearings for garage demolition. And I think,
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if this would fall into it because it was a deck, so I was just,
So,
He wasn't
but it
sure.
is a sleeping porch and an enclosed section as well. So the deck wouldn't require a public hearing, but the structural, thank you for reminding me of that, I did see that. The structural portion of the house, the sleeping porch does. So we will set a public hearing for the next meeting, and, you know, if folks feel they can approve the application presented to us tonight, we can still go ahead with the approval, so if you're comfortable, you can order your materials, things like that.
I have some work to do on the construction documents that I didn't want to do until you guys approved, so I would
Okay.
be, I will be starting that process if you guys feel you're headed towards an approval, but I'll have more information hopefully for you as well next meeting for the railing and other things you asked about.
Does anybody have any other feedback for Ariel as she kind of moves her project forward in the planning phases?
I don't want to stray into the question of designing too far, but the proportions of what you propose feel really different to me from what is there. Roof pitches, the chopped off roof on the first floor. So you've got a straight line coming down. The little shed, you know, the roofs that are protecting the doorways, those are really a 1920s kind of craftsman detail or a bungalow detail. They don't really belong on a building like this. So I have some questions about compatibility that, and I realize that the sleeping porch is not original to the building. It's a change in and of itself. Allegedly, this building came to town on a flatbed car. It is actually it's a very expensive kit house. And it was probably built in the late 80s.
I can imagine this as a kit house, but I believe you're not.
There were some very large examples, and this is one of them. Locally, some people used to call it the Beefsteak Castle.
And that's a long story too.
That is a very long story, and we're not going there. It's an eclectic building, but I'm not sure that the eclecticism of this feels in sync. I wouldn't urge matching it, but it feels out of sync to me, and I'm not really sure. I have ideas about why it feels funny to me.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised to hear you, I mean, the roof pitch is matched, so there's a roof right here that is a shed porch that has an identical pitch to what I've done. And on the opposite side, anywhere we see that sort of like first floor is larger than the second floor, it is that shed style roof, and where it turns a corner towards the front, we're getting that same hip that I'm doing in the back. And the sleeping porch is exactly the same pitch that's there now, copying it completely. So I'm not sure how that could be more tied in. I do see what you're saying about the protection for the doors. That hood design could certainly be detailed further for you. There are some big brackets, which is what I kind of had in mind. If you look on that second story, there's sort of a bracket detail that in my mind is what we would be pulling from. And again, that same shed style that we're seeing on the first floor is what we're pulling from as well. So that was kind of the timing behind that.
But as you know, you're working with an addition that isn't part of the original scheme of the building, and the addition is clunky. It doesn't match. It doesn't sync with the building it was added to begin with.
Well, sure, it wasn't there. That's true.
But it could have synced more than it does if someone had thought about how they had designed it, but they didn't put that. And so that's where I'm stumbling. It feels, yes, you're pulling bits and pieces. It's kind of like pulling from here and here and here on an AutoCAD program, but it doesn't hang together with the original design of the building for me. And I'm an architectural historian, so I do have some background in this. So I'm stumbling a little on the details of the design. I'm not stumbling on the idea that you would do this. The deck seems oversized and really kind of a difficult addition to put on the back of a big house like this, just because, but there's plenty of space for it and it won't be terribly visible from the street.
Yes, it'll be very low, and it's such a big side yard. That's that's really modernizing it. We know that wouldn't have been there.
But the scale of, there's just things about the details of how the scale, it doesn't sync all that well for me.
Right, and we're dealing with what was there, so we're just trying to stick within that footprint of the previous edition that was added on. So we're limited in a way.
And it is really hard to tell from the pictures. The one question I have, Ariel, is where the proposed addition is here.
Yes.
Does the current addition line up like that?
Yes.
Exactly with
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, we are exactly within the footprint. We are not changing that at all. And the sleeping porch that you're seeing is in the exact, like, left to right location. It is shifting up slightly. You see that noted in my drawing that it is a teeny bit higher up, but it's exactly left to right where it is now, and exactly the same dimensions and proportions.
How much higher up?
30 inches. It's currently 2 steps down from the second story, and we're we're making it in line with the second story.
Is that gonna change the proportion of the space underneath it considerably?
It'll make it
Oh,
it'll match the first floor. It's all matching what's existing inside now.
So where the current sleeping porch and area underneath it are the same size, this lower first floor addition is going to be a bigger footprint, correct?
No, we are exactly in the footprint that is there now.
Okay.
So right now, the deck, the deck on the first floor you're seeing right here.
I guess I'm seeing this picture
Yeah,
where it
so
looks like.
this deck is. This deck now is right here. That is exactly the same place.
Okay, and I'm not asking about the deck as much as this, so the sleeping porch and the enclosed area underneath it versus this where you have, it juts out, there's a roof. So that lower level is a bigger footprint? I'm asking that you're proposing a bigger footprint? It's not gonna
The
be,
enclosed portion is bigger,
right,
but it is exactly where the deck is now.
and it, as Jesse put out, that earlier edition is clunky. I think that the thing I'm struggling with is the hip roof and then the kind of truncated nature of this. That's the thing that seems clunky to me. But we don't design, we just try to evaluate. So. And is this a window?
No, so what's happening there, I wish I brought my computer so I could show this to you in 3D, because you're right, it's such an interesting house. So what's happening is, right now, on the deck as existing, there's a Bilco door onto it into their basement. And because we have that roof line there coming across, what you're seeing in that elevation is that is recessed.
Okay.
And what you're seeing is that all of the trim details on the existing house, all of the corner boards, all of the big sort of fascia are copied. So you're seeing those lines.
So this is what we're seeing.
You're seeing this recess.
So
You're seeing like
that's-
a corner board, a trim. So it's just recessed with what's in there.
And that's original material, or whatever. Original edition.
Yeah, so this is the back of the house. Right now, this is the back of the house. So this would all be our new material in the existing footprint, but new siding material.
Dave, do either of you have any questions?
I do not.
Pat, do you have any other
Is the
questions?
Bilco door exposed to the outside, or is there a wall between it and the?
It's exposed now and it will continue to be exposed. The only thing we're doing is continuing that roof over to the side, so our new one will have a roof over
So the
the
Bilco door
top.
will be covered, but not?
By a roof, but not enclosed, correct?
Okay.
Can I see that drawing again?
Of course.
Show us the footprint.
I can just do these for you too, I don't know why I keep
I guess
walking away
there's
with
one
them.
in here too, but
Yeah.
it's so much smaller.
I know.
So this is the one.
I will leave them all with you.
Thank you. So the addition is actually gonna L around the Bilco door. Is that everybody need to see that?
So the roof on that side is essentially a cover for the door, for the storm door, and also an entryway to the room. Is that correct?
Yeah, you'll enter on the one side and then it continues.
The roof continues. but-
Right, yeah,
but the
nowhere
door
else.
doesn't.
Correct.
Right.
Correct, to leave the Bilco accessible from the exterior is why it doesn't connect. And nowhere else on the house did it have those roof lines that just kind of stopped. All of the ones that we see now on the first floor are that full shed style roof, which is what we're continuing.
Jesse, any other comments? Do we want
I
to
guess
give,
I feel as if what's going on here is that we're drawing a design from an addition that really wasn't very coherent with the building to start with. It strikes me that one could do better within the footprint than just sort of working. It feels like we're sort of replicating something that was a bit of a problem to begin with, rather than thinking about a better, more pleasing solution. But that is, I suppose, an owner's prerogative. So that's where I'm hesitant. It just feels like it wasn't a very good addition to begin with, and so maybe we could have proposed an addition that was more coherent with the building. So. And it's on the back, which means most of us won't be looking at it.
Yeah, no part of this is visible from the front yard.
Your comment about the one-story, the one over one windows being unusual, not for a fancy house like this in the late 80s.
Yeah, it's just surprising to see there's so many other Victorians around the house, but we went all the way back to the historic photos and it was always like that. We did look into that because
this is absolutely what this house had. And it's got on the turret on the front, all of those curved sash with the curved glass.
yeah, so the
They're
turret
fantastic.
actually used to have the gridded windows, and all of the rest of the house had one over one. It was only the turret that they changed. Like, so in the historic photos, that's where we saw all the divided lights, but like you said, never anywhere else.
any other questions? Okay. So we will set the public hearing. We've given you some feedback. And we will see you next month. Any
For
updates?
the public hearing.
Yeah, if you.
Sure,
if
and I
you
know you
make
wanna
any-
see like possibly a railing, detail.
Mhm.
Other than convincing the homeowners to completely redo their design, is there any other,
I realize that's an expensive proposal,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I did not mean, and I don't mean that in a rude way at all,
No,
I just mean, what can I do before
no.
next month?
No, we understand
Yeah.
you have a client and you're
Yeah.
working for that client.
Yeah.
I think the message is we're not trying to create a false sense of historicism. However, doing this, I think it's less of a concern to stay in the footprint, although I understand there may be economic or other reasons they're trying to do that, and more of a concern to kind of blend it with a more nuance or kind of delicacy. Does that help?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that any questions that you have, I come back with next month, and if any of this needs to be revised, that we do so.
I think, anybody, fair enough?
You said something about, you used the word nuance, and I guess that's where individually, the details are definitely drawn from something you're looking at, but the overall scale and massing is what I think feels odd to me. So it's a global thing rather than
Yeah.
a small, you know, than a checklist.
Yeah,
If you
no,
see
and
what I- if you see what I mean.
I take zero, this is, I don't, you know Susan Snell, she did this design, I am presenting it, I
Yeah,
am tying this in, but
That's
I
fine.
take zero offense to what you're saying. I'm just working with, you know, clients who.
No,
And-
absolutely, yeah.
And again, you know, the feel of the proposed section just kind of, it falls hard. I don't know what else to say with that sense that it's just truncated on the, as you're looking at from the back on the left side, and then that kind of hipped roof on the right. And I think about, maybe there's, and again, not trying to design, but a way to tie in or reflect the way that porch roof wraps around or something like that on the front, that might soften it. You know, I'm just trying to figure out
Look onto the deck side.
what is so, it's pretty abrupt is what I'm trying to say.
Is a good word for it.
I'm trying to, just thinking about ways to kind of integrate it a little better. Okay, all right. If you have any other questions, talk to Chris, they'll pass them
No, we'll be
along.
back for the public hearing.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing if nobody's here to speak and nobody's done anything online, Chris, for 186 Main Street. So would anybody like to make a motion regarding the demolition of the garage at 186 Main Street?
I'll move that we approve the demolition.
Thank you, Dave. Would you like to second that?
Second.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, any discussion? Those votes yes?
Jesse, yes.
David, yes. David, yes.
And nobody's here to talk about the construction of the proposed garage, correct? Okay, then we're not gonna address that right now.
What are they doing about the pitch?
Well, that's a good question for whoever comes to talk to us about it when they do. So I'm eager to hear too. Okay, all right. Anybody here for 17 Eagle? No. Nobody here for 50 Walnut, right? 14 Delaware? Okay, 190 Main Street. Is everybody here for 190 Main Street? By process of elimination. Wow. Okay, who would like to talk to us about 190 Main Street?
We are looking to we have a sunroom that's attached to the house. Currently has a railing that goes around it. We're basically looking to replace that railing with something that's a little more code compliant, a little safer.
You could fall right through that.
Oh, right now, there's not much holding the current one. So, yeah, it doesn't.
Just like a suggestion of don't
Okay.
get too close
What
to
is
the edge
what's
of the
the rule?
roof.
It's like you're 4 inches, right? You can't stick a baby's head. It's like they're just
You can
wide
drive a
open.
car through
You
that.
just toss a baby through the railing currently.
New ones, those are softer.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave, was it always like that?
I
Oh, at other stuff you didn't own it
did
then.
not work there.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, just consulting our local historian here.
No, that looks like a replacement
Yes.
railing anyway.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that was a recent
Yeah.
replacement
I can't
and
remember what was there.
I'm not sure they had anything there.
It's possible there wasn't. I don't know when that addition was added.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, I was looking online, I was trying to find somewhere that might have an old photo of the house to see if there was. Okay, struck out.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
It's been there as long as I can remember. That's just a few years.
So do you have any images of the railing you'd like to?
Yes, is that not in the application?
Oh,
Yeah, we definitely.
Sorry.
oh, sorry, on the back, I apologize.
Yeah,
Okay,
quite elaborate.
yeah,
Here, got some larger ones for you.
thank you. This is not killing trees like we were used to.
So, yeah, this is what we are proposing to do here. This is the existing railing that you can kind of see up here with the X's on it.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's essentially fairly self-explanatory.
Pat, did you need to see this?
Here, I'll pass this one over to you guys.
This is this, right?
This is existing, this is
Right,
proposed.
right, but
Yeah.
this is where it's going.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, that should be compliant.
And then some. And tell us about the materials, so anybody else need to see this?
I can't vote
Materials would be paintable PVC.
Solid.
Solid.
Any other questions, folks?
I guess the only other question would be, why not go with wood?
Maintenance.
What's this building being used for right now?
So this building is going to be used as housing for the Otis Saga.
Oh, for people working at the Ozark?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Pretty luxurious little,
Yeah.
it's an adorable house.
It is an adorable house.
I love this house.
I'm actually curious, as an architectural historian, what would you describe the style of that house as?
Well, it's Victorian eclectic, it kind of draws from a lot of things, but it's early, comparatively for, I can't remember what I dated it as in the building list years ago. But it's unusual here in Cooperstown. I mean, most of our Victorians are not brick. And it's got that lovely stone foundation, which is not matched by the porch. The porch is a later porch, but I'm not sure how much later the porch is. A lot of people added porches in the late 19th, early 20th century when TB was raging, because it was a way to put sleep.
I could believe that porch was added around then.
Yeah, certainly the bracket details suggest that. But the earlier design, it's really Eastlake, probably, is what I would probably name it, if I had to name it.
No, it was something, I was looking at it myself, and I was trying to think, like, what would I describe it as? And
Yeah.
it's eclectic.
I think I would go with an sort of Eastlake tendency. I
Okay.
mean, Victorian eclecticism is just, it's incredibly complicated. There's very, it's eclectic, capital E, so, but it's a very sweet house. I've never been inside of it, but the outside is lovely. So,
It's very cute inside.
I hope they insulated it, that's what I've heard from people who've lived there.
brick is a rotten kind of building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually similar to my house, where I think it's plastered directly over brick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brick is a terrible insulator. Masonry is a terrible insulator.
Anyhow, I guess most of the residential activity will happen during the summer, so it probably doesn't matter as much. Caps on the posts are gonna be PVC as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you milling them yourself, or you both?
We would be, I believe, we'd be milling those ourselves.
And the same is true of the top railing, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Sanford is recusing himself. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Dave.
Move that each part provide a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 190 Main Street under criteria 2B, 3A, B, and D.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Pat. Any discussion? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Jesse, yes.
Pat,
Dick, yes.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. now to determine why we have so many people out there.
May I ask you one quick question before you move to the next? Your rule about fences and 4 foot when we need to come here, this is actually for a different project. Just to clarify, if it's 4 foot or under, we don't need HPAR approval?
Zoning guy, be gentle on him.
I can tell you, I was just looking at this, in fact. First of all, it's not just simply 4 feet, it seems it's the definition of the, it isn't, I thought it was 4 feet including any sort of protrusion from the top, but looking at the code here, it says a fence is considered a structural, a structure required a permit. The height of fence shall be measured from the average grade for any fence section to the top of the fence, excluding any decorative caps, finials, or posts, provided that they are no more than 20% higher than the fence. So that's a detail to be known. And so, if a fence does not exceed that height, then it wouldn't need a zoning. It wouldn't need a sorry, I'm using this the terminology. HPAR would still have to approve it with a certificate of appropriateness, but it wouldn't need zoning board approvals.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
So we always have to look at it for materials, composition, design. But additional approvals are needed if it's higher.
Understood. Perfect.
What's back?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. So are folks here for items that aren't on the agenda? Sarah?
I think it's possible there was communications breakdown during the finishing of the guard. So I have an application that I submitted on the deadline,
Okay,
and I didn't get a response back. My fault, I didn't follow. Not anybody's fault, just.
okay, well, I can't make any guarantees. Come tell us about
I
your
just
application.
to interrupt for a second, just know I'm the new replacement
Hi
fellow.
Chris, how are you?
Good, thank you. But something happened where I contacted the technical support, but a few emails I received said, hi, I wrote you 5 days ago, why haven't I heard from you? And upon searching, I could find the email, but they weren't appearing in my inbox, so if you fell victim to that, I just want you to know it wasn't due to my lack of care.
No blame.
But 2 went down to some black hole, and so.
That might be everybody's case, I don't know.
Sarah, do you have an application that we can make a few copies of and take a look at while you're telling us about the project?
I hope this is quick, it's just a roof change material. Go. How is everybody?
Okay, anything else that I can give them to look at?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I made, I don't color copy this first one for Chris. You guys can pass this around. This is 17 Elm Street. Roofing material.
I want to see the document with the date on it.
Well, the shingles leak,
The shingles are leaking.
break into the leak.
The knoll and cedar roof is leaking.
It's actually not that old, I remember that roof being put on.
And that is very good, Kate, a very good point.
That roof was put on probably about 20 years ago.
So life cycle of a cedar, missing Liz, but life cycle of a cedar, expensive cedar shaped roof is brief.
Depends on the quality of the cedar. Older cedar, maybe not, but new cedar,
New
certainly a
cedar
problem.
is certainly a problem. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for taking this on.
More than one, I'm not sure.
So, 17 Elm Street,
Liz,
I work for Red Points, don't, not my house.
Liz was saying that the cedar roof at 17 Elm Street is leaking.
Okay.
It's a 20-year-old roof approximately.
That's too bad, because it should have lasted longer, huh?
It should have if the materials were 100 years old or made 100 years ago.
The right kind of
Unfortunately.
cedar.
Yeah, so, I mean, the homeowner's request was for us to estimate cedar, and we did. And the cost of cedar from pre-COVID to today has almost quadrupled. So we've got a $100,000 roof or a $55,000 roof. So it's what they wanted, but we spent a couple of months researching other materials and came up with this Brava shape. And let's see, what can I tell you about it? It is made of post-industrialized plastic. It's 100% recyclable. It has a 50-year warranty. The molds are made from actual shingles. The colors are random and throughout. So it's like this big vat of color getting mixed, and then they're pressed out. So there's no repetition in color. Every shake is different, in other words. It's not like porcelain tile that's fake wood, that's just a repetition of a digital print. It's not that. So I guess I gave you the company makes accessories. There's a solid tile for all of the exposed edges. Of course, there's a starter and then the hip and ridge to go with it. That's the color that they've chosen based on looking at a lot of colors. And the reveal will be, the planned reveal is 7 inches.
What is the thickness of a cedar shingle? The thickness looks a little thicker than your average shingle.
I think it depends on what the shingles were used for. And also it depends
Yeah,
on
the
how
shank would
weathered
be
the shingles
thicker
are,
than
because they
regular
literally do
shingles.
weather away. Yeah. So original shingles might have been pretty close to this. And these would have been shingles, not shakes, technically. Shakes are.
Do you know
shakes
offhand
are- shakes are
the height
manufactured
of,
set differently.
do you know offhand the height of each of the floors?
The height
Rooms,
of each
Each
of the,
floors?
I
I mean, I'm trying to figure out how far away the roof is from the ground.
downstairs, the ceilings are high. I think
They're like
upstairs, the
12
ceilings
feet,
are
aren't they?
average. I don't think,
12 feet?
they're
up
high.
there.
They're very high.
12 is really high.
I've been in the house a lot. I just haven't been in a little while.
We used to be in it a lot, and then we used to take care of it.
So the
But
ladies,
the basement itself has a 10-foot ceiling.
yes,
Whoa.
you could drive a car into the basement.
Yeah, it's a really nifty building.
Last month, we got, Red Point got approval for the
Little.
yes, for the overhang, which I think it is a beautiful overhang, and it's replicating a dormer. And that particular project is gonna get pushed out because this is priority. Roofs are more important, and that's an expensive overhang. So what else can I tell you?
What other questions do folks have?
I don't have any questions. Actually, the shingles that were put on, when they were put on, they were quite thick. I mean, it was put on by the Ensinga, Dr. Ensinga, that was fun.
By who?
Dr. Ensinga.
Before you bought the house?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was put on.
By the
They
ladies?
rented the house the Millers on now, across the street, and they bought the house when Miss Cunningham died. So, which is quite a while ago. But it's within my memory, and I've been here 33 years. Over half of my life.
They're gonna
I've
put
been
the
here all my
side porch
life.
back on?
I'm sorry,
They're gonna put the side porch back?
the side porch on the driveway side?
No, on the other side.
It is on.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
a few years ago,
Carl
right?
did that.
Oh, good.
Will and Carl
I
did that.
just really never noticed because of the planting.
Because of the cheese. It's in there. Yeah, it's pretty. Very pretty porch. And it matches the eaves on the, yeah, no, it matches. There's a little balcony up there. I think, yeah, balcony up there. I didn't get a picture of that. Very pretty.
Are people comfortable, voting on this, given?
Can we talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure people were even comfortable moving forward before we, not pressing for a vote as much as wanted to gauge the crowd. Pat, go ahead.
No, it just seems to me that we're looking at an angle that's going away in perspective. We're looking at mostly at the very edge of the shingle. It appears to be, if you're correct, that they're 12-foot ceilings.
Well, that's just a guess,
That's right.
but they're over 10, I'm sure.
But I mean, the distance is substantial.
Oh, yeah, it
So
is.
between the ground where you would see it from and in effect, the sort of end side of the.
Say it's close to
roofing.
30 feet to the eave.
Okay. And this is just a personal thing, but I would much rather see cedar used for other uses other than replacing roofing.
Cedar is a sensitive resource, for
Exactly. I mean-
certainly. And this is, believe it or not, plastic is the more responsible way to go.
I would accept that, but it's from 30 feet, I don't think I would be able to tell the difference between that and 30 feet.
I think it's unfair for us to be looking at it flat on the table when we should be looking at it from,
You're gonna
You
stand
have
on
to
the
sit
chair.
down in the hall,
from the police
in the hall, right?
You have to go across.
So, yeah, I've stared at this for a long time, lying on the table, and it's way up there. It's way up there.
I mean, for me, it's a concern we're gonna face, is we're losing valuable wood.
And we've already approved a rubberized roof to mimic slate in another building.
Pine Boulevard and Main Street for one, I don't know others, but
Yeah.
I know that one. Same roofer is gonna be doing this house as did that house.
Who was that, just so?
Ed Lesson. Oh, it's getting all copper. Everything else is copper, that's all gonna be replaced. There's
Copper flashing.
yeah, everywhere, drip edge, valleys, everything. These little doodads on the top, we're not sure what,
Acroteria.
I'm sorry?
Those are called acroteria.
They are, I don't know what they're made of. We have, when they take them down, if they're in great shape, they'll go back up. If not, they'll be recreated. Exactly.
You know, ironically, this is probably the closest example to the porch on the one we just reviewed
Yeah,
in the
well, I mean,
village.
they're both essentially
Yeah.
brick, they're brick Eastlake houses.
Yes.
We're not accustomed to looking at brick
Eastlake, yeah.
Victorians, but there is Eastlake houses and they're brick. And they're really very nice.
And the owners of this house are very concerned with its aesthetics. It's been a long conversation.
Well, I mean, after the Dykstras did all that work to bring it back in, then to have owners who really care about it, that's great.
Yeah. And they're young. They care about it for a long time. But they'd like to.
I coached her.
They'd like to have the roof possibly outlive them. Do this once and.
Well, it's a bad situation to have a roof leaking on you. You just don't want to have to do this.
Dave Sanford, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Nor do I.
Jesse, anything else? No. Pat, were you done?
Hmm?
I didn't mean to cut you off, were you done?
No.
Okay. Okay, I guess I'll put the question out there again, because we didn't get to review this before the meeting. Are people comfortable voting on it? If anybody's uncomfortable, please tell me.
I'm not necessarily uncomfortable. The question I have is how many more of these are there out there? Because, if we approve one, I think we're gonna have to,
We'll
we're
review
gonna,
the-
I think
we'll
we're gonna
review
have to
the other.
do all of them.
We'll review the others,
That's,
yeah.
that's the, I mean, for the question of fairness,
I agree.
if this one is lost, got lost in the mail, all of the others that appear to have gotten lost in the mail have to be given the same treatment.
They have to be given a review, yes, and are people comfortable doing that?
How many of
Could
them
I
are
make
there?
could I just make a comment of something that came to me in the night when I was worrying about this? So for the 20th century, and this little chunk, first 23 years of the 21st century, all of these early houses in Cooperstown have had, not all, but many, many houses have had their roofs changed from what was originally on them to asphalt. And we had 125 years of asphalt sheathed roofs. It's helpful that people are gonna return to the natural products. Slate, another, a few houses in Cooperstown still have their slate, beautiful. Some of them still have their original metal. This house, we got it to here, all the way to here with a cedar roof, and now we gotta make a change, but I think it's inevitable with the nature of roofs.
I understand what you're saying. And I think Pat was echoing that also. I think we're talking not about the roof, about whether people are just comfortable with applications we haven't seen before, because people do a little fee work and stuff like that. Field work, excuse me, my mouth's not working. Are people at least willing to review the other applications that are out there tonight?
My question returns to how many of them are there?
I would address them, because
Okay,
I have no
so
record
how
of
many
reading all
applications
writing.
does that mean?
application.
And we don't have the information.
We're on the docket from last
What property are you here for?
77 Beaver.
We're the homeowners of 77.
Okay,
It was
77
discussed
Beaver.
last month that you're.
Okay, because it was discussed last month, I guess it didn't get added to the, it was in the email, but it's not on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, I apologize, so,
No
okay,
problem.
thank you, we just wanted it, so we're revisiting 77 Beaver.
Okay,
Okay,
and are you,
sorry, Sarah.
are all four?
Yeah, these are my joints.
They're just.
Peggy.
Okay, all right.
This is all that's left, one more.
Okay, we just wanted to make sure there weren't 4 or 5 more.
Nope.
Okay, and we are familiar with that. All right, so are people comfortable voting on this?
Yes,
May I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, Dave.
Whereas the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Board has made the following findings in relationship to 17 Elm Street. It is a listed property,
Yes.
and that was a statement, not a question.
Okay. Well, amen.
And this is keeping with, and therefore, 2A, 3A, B, C, D. I would say E also.
Okay.
That should do it.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll take it.
Thanks, Pat. Any discussion? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Yes, yes.
David, yes.
David, yes.
Thank you, times David. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you, and I apologize.
No worries.
Stuart.
You're welcome. Okay, Chris, can I go pull the file for 77 Beaver? Is it in the drawer?
I will try and find out, it should be.
Okay, I mean, I can do it if you don't want
I'll
to,
look.
if you don't want to. So, just so we have that. Give us a second, and, Pat, you were here last month, right? Yeah, so we had the discussion about the changes in the corner board to 77 Beaver, we kind of remind everybody, about No, siding was removed.
Siding,
Corner boards were
Right,
added,
right.
changing the
Mhm.
verticality of the house. Yeah, the minutes have a lot of the discussion, if people want to take a look at the minutes. And now, as people are looking at the minutes, might be a good time when Jesse comes back to approve the minutes, so we can do it while Dave's here, so we have a forum to approve the minutes. And then if the discussion goes on longer, thank you. If anybody needs to see the file, please let me know.
Do anything,
Pardon me?
if I have to do anything.
Chris is gonna send you a permit,
Yeah.
5 business days,
Okay, I'll email you,
And-
make sure we.
Yeah, so we'll figure this out, for sure.
and maybe try to email, you're using Jackson's email address, correct?
Yes.
And email again, and you guys
Zoning app?
interact.
Yeah, I'll follow up to make sure if my
Okay.
inbox isn't working, my outbox seems to be working.
Thank you.
so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Give us a minute, thanks.
Sure.
Jesse, I suggested when you left the room that, first of all, Marcia pointed out that the discussion was in the minutes of the last meeting, which would be helpful to everybody. But I also suggested that we might approve the minutes before Dave has to leave. So we have a quorum approving the minutes of people who were here at the last meeting.
This one I have on my phone. Just can't find the other. Okay, I did notice one thing in the minutes,
The reference to historic SHPO?
yeah,
Okay.
that needs to be
So
changed.
that's, yeah, your historic preservation office, thank you. I missed that. That's what happens when you read the minutes from your phone.
I read those on my computer screen. Okay. So we're planning to approve the minutes first so that Dave can leave, is that what's going on?
We don't want to chase him out, but just so it's done before he does choose to leave. So we
You
can
said you
have,
had to leave at 7, correct?
Well, we got half an hour.
okay, good. Well, when people are done taking a look at that discussion and ready to move on with this, let me know. I did pull this out of the file, it's the nomination, so people can take a look at the.
It's not a nomination, it's an inventory
Right,
form.
thank you.
Which are frequently not especially well done, I would listen to add. Oh, this is a CGP one. So then the Cosmos over there.
Can you tell who it was?
Marcia, what's the address of this?
Oh, it probably does
Because
say.
I think it's my hero.
You'll be on the end. Person. Oh, actually, it's usually at the top.
Oh,
Who was it?
Sunmarks.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It's funny. Okay, if folks are ready, Dave, are you good, or do you need another minute?
Good.
Okay, Pat, are you good? Okay. Okay, wanna come up and
Sure.
we'll talk?
You wanted to vote on the minutes, please?
Oh, I've had a very long day, thank you, Dave. And I know it's only Tuesday, but it's been a very long week. Okay, so, hang tight right there. Does anybody want a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Thank you. Anybody want a
With
second?
any correction you made.
With the Historic Preservation Board, the Historic Preservation Office changed to correctly. Okay,
Second.
thank you, Dave. So Sanford motion, Strogat seconded. Any discussion other than the SHPO correction? Liz votes yes.
Jesse, yes.
David, yes.
David, yes.
Thank you, okay. And we're done with that. All right, come on up, folks, sorry. Okay, so, last month, when we looked at this, and the reason the project, the siding project was stopped is because when, and I don't know if you've looked at our law, talked to your contractor, had it explained to you by Jackson before, I don't know, did you talk to Jackson before he left, or have you spoken with Chris?
No, there's
Okay, Jackson is our full-time zoning enforcement officer. He's working on Notre Dame right now, so we have Chris.
Hi,
So
Chris.
he's our interim zoning enforcement officer. The project was stopped because of the change in the siding that really takes away from the historic appearance of the house. With the addition of the vertical corner boards, it takes away from the verticality that house is supposed to have.
Horizontality.
I'm sorry, Jesse, you can say this better, go right ahead.
Well, no, the building was designed to be horizontal in appearance, and putting vertical corner boards encloses the building and draws it up. So,
Okay,
But there's dozens and dozens of homes in Cooperstown.
but this is the way this house is supposed to look. It's not the way the other houses look.
And how come it was okay last summer?
Let me just,
I don't understand that.
So I wanted to just, because our contractor explained last month that you had this meeting and talked about us and the corner boards. And so I did look at the zoning laws, and it says if you're repairing with like materials and like methodology, it's okay by the town.
But it has to maintain the appearance too.
So I took photos of the house before we purchased it, and it has corner boards on it.
On
So
the one
these-
side, not the other.
Okay, but there's corner boards on
Oh, no, the
multiple,
carriage house just.
on multiple corners of the house. And so I think what we're struggling with is there are corner boards on different angles of the house. So there's one.
this is an added chimney, this is not a corner.
That's
And
a
this is
porch.
an added porch.
And there's the carriage house. as
The carriage
corner
house
boards.
is a different building.
Right. So in our mind, this is keeping this.
We're
in
just
the
trying to make it
same-
uniform.
The same view. And the trouble with the siding, wood siding, which we're keeping and painting, is that it's damaged from water. So the contractor is recommending they put the corner boards on to prevent further damage from water. So that's all. We're not trying to change the look of the house. We don't care about corner boards, other than the fact that our contractor recommended that that's what's needed to preserve the wood siding in the house.
And we've already done
So
several of
these are
them
pictures of the
with approval last
the
summer.
house to show that it looks.
Was there a permit issue
It looks
last
the
summer?
same.
Somebody came to the site and said it was fine.
Last
Do you
year,
remember who it was?
This is a carryover
It was
from last
Jackson.
year's project.
Okay, so.
So Jackson came to the site and approved it.
Okay,
Otherwise, we wouldn't have done half of the house that way.
was it the replacement in kind of the ones that were on that side of the house before? So that's a I'm asking you, were you just replacing what had been there before on that other side of the house?
No, we were adding.
We replaced the siding in kind.
But were there corner boards
There was
that
no
she's,
corner boards
No, the only
Well,
thing-
there's corner boards on the side of the house where the chimney is, and on the other side where the porch is.
The chimney's a change, the chimney was put on.
Right, but
I don't know,
he
in
put
the
corner
50s or
boards
60s,
on
maybe
one half
later.
of the house.
But
that
it's still
Jackson
materials in
approved.
kind, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
So
we
he
did.
added corner boards to half the house that was approved.
Is there a permit in there from
I
last
see
summer?
a permit here from last summer, I think,
Yeah, the project was started last June.
The one on top.
There was an application for the porch, but there was,
Yeah.
I don't, but they're not corner ones.
Refurbished front porch, replaced decking, and that was last summer's permit.
That's right, and
But
so
if
that,
Jackson came to the home and approved it, we went along with the project. So when we
Based on
were
the
pretty
contract
shocked when somebody said this year, wait a minute, you can't do that, when we already had approval from Jackson to do it.
so just to give you a little history, so the project was approved in June. The contractor never showed.
The porch was approved.
The porch, right, and it was we were fixing our porch, which was damaged, and painting the house. And so we had two contractors that were working in tandem to fix the porch and paint the house. The contractor that was supposed to fix the porch never showed up. And so the painting of the house was continuing while they were waiting for the contractor to fix the porch to come to the house. But he never came, he never called us, it basically just ghosted us, and we weren't
Disappeared.
able to, now we had scraped paint off of the areas of the porch, and we got a new contractor, Jake, to fix the porch, and the painter had discovered damage on the siding where he was scraping, and so Jake put the corner boards to cover the damage, and the zoning inspector saw that and didn't have a problem with it. So and unfortunately, because our painter has some health issues and couldn't finish the job last year, we had to pick it up again this spring. So the house unfortunately was left half painted, half unpainted, and half scraped over the winter. And so we were anxious to get the
Even
work
if there was enough
finished.
time last summer, we would have put corner boards up under Jackson's approval at the end of last season.
But I'm just explaining to you why this has like been a carryover into the
Right.
spring. You're not changing anything, we're just
We're doing
finishing
exactly what we were
what we
doing.
started last year.
Oh, okay, you have to forgive me, there's nothing in the file requesting addition of corner boards, nor is there,
Well, that's because of the confusion of exactly what means replace in kind. When a building has half corner boards, half not, and siding needs to be replaced, and saving money for these people, and what in everybody else's mind is a traditional siding methodology for clapboard sidings, you always put corner boards on. It's just a common
Not always.
practice.
not always, it depends.
Well, I don't know of
And-
a
and-
single
I mean-
place in this town that has anything like that.
You're absolutely right, it is very unusual
And
here, but
that's-
it's absolutely standard in a lot of housing in Oneonta.
And in this,
But we're not in Oneonta.
but we are in
What I'm saying
Cooperstown.
is that you have designers who, this is an unusual design, you're absolutely correct, in the village of Cooperstown, but it is not unusual on a countywide scale or a statewide scale for a building of this period. This was a fancy finish, it was not an everyday finish when it was put on the house.
Corner boards really kind of,
Corner boards cover errors. This was very neatly done.
no.
Well, there's errors
So-
now because
So
it's
can
running.
you advise us on how we're supposed to preserve? It's because we love the house and we want to preserve it. We want to keep the wood siding. And so how do we preserve the house if there's water damage, the way the siding is
Plus,
existing
we've
now?
already done half the house. We can't not do the other half of the house, it'll look ridiculous.
I think what we talked about at the last meeting was just not picking out the corner boards at this point and repairing the ones on the front corners, the north-facing side, the front of the house.
Well, then we're gonna have half a house with
So-
corner boards and half
Maybe
a
you
house
could
without
explain
corner
that
boards.
to me, because I'm
No,
not
actually, you have
sure.
three-quarters of the house.
But this is the front of the house.
Well, what difference does it make what percentage of the house? We want the house to look the same.
What's
The house
wrong
did-
with
the
the
house-
front of the house?
The house doesn't look the same here. The house does not look the same in this picture. These are the corner boards are.
No,
These are
this
what we
is,
added.
this is the original photo.
You have
This is
corner
the
boards
current
here
photo.
and here.
And
They've
there-
been done.
these were not, this did not have corner boards. But this is the
I understand
this
that,
chimney has nothing to do
My
with the
point
history
is,
of the building.
these are
But
already
the
done.
house has corner boards on
I
it,
know,
so
at
to
this
say
point-
that it
So
doesn't
you
have corner
can't
boards
do
doesn't.
half the house and not the other half.
As I say, at this point, what I would recommend is repairing the corners on the front of the house, because they are, the front of the house was meant to
use
look
that-
horizontal, yes.
And so the way this house looks now, this is what's been done. This is a fence.
That's one corner, that's just,
This is
yeah,
the
how is
picture of
that
the
offensive?
house. I'm not
So-
understanding what the concern is.
So this is the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board.
Yeah,
We are enforcing state and federal model laws that create historic districts, like the village of Cooperstown. We are in a historic district. The board is constituted specifically to maintain the historic appearance of properties in the historic
yeah, sure.
district.
Look at all this.
And specifically, the appearance of the street-facing property. The picture that is black and white is what was used about 30 years ago when the inventory was done to create the nomination for this historic district. And until those corner boards were applied, the house maintained that historic character. That is our concern, maintaining the historic character. The hardship we consider is the hardship to the building, not the economic hardship to the homeowner, to the property owner. So because the nomination was created and the image on that form reflects that horizontal traditional look of this house, which is unique, and the goal of this board is to maintain the character of properties and the unique character of specific properties, not say uniformly other places exist with corner boards, so it's okay to add corner boards to this building. Each house is different, each property is different. We look at each property individually in a vacuum, and we're trying to maintain the character of the property. That is why we are asking you to remove the corner boards and do the joinery on those corners as it was done historically. That is, at the last meeting, you said you were removing the siding because it was expensive to do the corners, and it's expensive to remove siding, you know, if you pieced in some siding at the corners where there's water damage, it would be less expensive than removing all the siding. That we would like to see the front-facing, the street-facing view of the house not have corner boards, because it didn't. They've been added recently. There is nothing in this file that indicates that a permit was issued for corner boards last year. So I don't have anything to go on, and Jackson would not randomly say, okay, it's okay to leave corner boards up. That's something that would come to review here at the Historic Preservation Board. In the confusion of your painter being sick, waiting for a contractor, getting ghosted by a contractor, who put up the corner boards that were put up last year?
I did.
Okay. And did you come to a Historic Preservation Board meeting
No.
with the permit? Okay. So that's where we're struggling here. What Jesse is saying is that the ideal would be to treat the front corners of the house, the street-facing corners of the house, as in the historic picture she's holding from that inventory, without corner boards. That would be the ideal, to treat that siding as it was historically treated. And we could come to a compromise if this board agreed about other corner boards on other sections of the house. but we would like to see the front section of the house treated as it was historically.
I understand what you're saying,
But the dark.
but that's not what they said last summer. That's why we started doing it that way.
Except that it wasn't actually, I think.
So there are no corner boards on the front face of the house.
Correct.
They haven't been put on.
No, that's what she said, we can't add it.
We can't add, yeah, we're asking not to add them to the front of the house.
But they're not on, but you said earlier to take them off.
Okay, isn't there, I thought you were about to add them though, right? I haven't looked at.
We haven't added
Okay.
anything to the front yet, it was only
Yes,
to the
so
one
we're
side.
asking you not to put corner boards on the front of the house.
And we're asking you to us, who are new to this community, that for somebody to have given us an approval to do something, which did occur, to now tell us that we can't do it uniformly around the home is pretty poor, in my opinion.
Well, except that the zoning, the CEO, can't issue an approval for that kind of.
I hear what you're saying,
And so
but all I know is somebody from this town came to him and said what we were doing was all right. Now, maybe he didn't think it was gonna be that big a deal, and maybe he kind of hopped over a part of the process that we're completely oblivious to because we've only lived here for a few years, but we didn't know that. So I don't know why we're stuck in a position where we've got half a house one way and the other part of the house the other because of somebody's telling him that it was okay to do it, and maybe he should have done that, but he did do it.
Okay. I understand you're new. We are here to protect the historic character and fabric
And I
of the
applaud that, I
village.
think it's great, it's a beautiful
And
town.
it makes your property more valuable that we
Everybody's.
have enforced the
Right.
rules for the properties around
Right.
you and the properties in this village.
But we're getting a raw deal here because somebody kind of, I guess, did something Jackson did something he wasn't supposed to do.
It may not have been clear to Jackson that your intention was to remove other siding and add additional corner boards, because something like that is a change, although the materials are the same, the wood is the same. The appearance, the addition of the corner board is a change. And if that didn't come to us for review, you don't have approval. Jackson may have seen one corner board near the chimney and not realized that the plan was to go around the house.
You wanna comment on that, Jay?
When he came to see what we were doing, he asked, what our plans were, and I told him that the plans were to fix the siding by adding corner boards, because only most of the corners, the outside corners, are failing because of the way that the siding is installed. It's exposed end grain of the siding, which absorbs water.
Was it
More than-
exposed because it needed to be painted or
No,
hadn't been maintained?
it's an exposed joint, it's exposed end grain, which, as a builder, that's not something that we practice. There's always either a miter or a intersection to not expose end grain of wood.
I understand that. Jesse, do you know in your time around the corner how long that siding had been on, or was that original siding?
The siding on the main block, is probably original. It goes all the way up into the dormers. It's on the three-sided bays. The porch that is on the back is not the original porch. And so when it was built with corner boards. I think the porch on the back was probably added sometime between 1940 and 1980. It's a perfectly fine back porch. And the chimney, I think, judging by that rather funny looking orange thing that sticks up out of the top of it, I suspect it's 1980s, maybe 1970s. And so that chimney is added to create a fireplace. One of the things about this particular house is that it was probably built with central heat. And the idea, and one of the things they wanted to show off was they didn't need a fireplace.
So originally, there may not have been any fireplaces in the house. We had relied entirely on being a centrally heated house, which was the most up-to-date technology at the time. And so the addition of the chimney a little bit later, or a lot later, or the alteration of the chimney it happened, and when they did it, they boxed it and put it and just slapped it on the side of the house. And so, and if you look at the foundation, you can see that it's not there. The front porch has the same, not the front porch, sorry, but the side porch on the east side also has the corners that are not covered in corner boards. So you can see that, and the original scheme shows up really clearly in this picture. I think at this point, personally, since so much of the siding has been removed, I've been watching the blue paint go up, and it's pretty dark. It pretty much hides that sense of, I mean, I can't see the point in taking off new siding, for heaven's sakes. But I would encourage you to consider trying to keep what's there in terms of the dormer, the front corners, and on the front porch.
Which we're gonna do, absolutely.
So I mean, it can be, I think I've done a fair amount of exterior painting in my life. My guess is that it's not as, and especially because it faces north, it doesn't get the weather that the south and the east and the west gets. So I think you might find that those corners are probably can be repaired fairly, as opposed to the south ones, which maybe they were really beyond repair because of not having had enough paint on them over the years. They're underneath an 18-inch overhang, which means that they really don't get a lot of weather. The primary problem is sunshine.
The concern is not just the weather at this point, the concern is that the house doesn't look uniform to us. Again, I hate to beat the same drum, but we were given approval to do something, and now we're not given approval.
You were not given approval to do something.
Man, we just bought a house here and we started working on it and somebody showed up and said it was okay. So.
Excuse me a second. Can everybody say goodbye to Dave? It's his last
Bye,
meeting.
Dave.
Oh, it's his last meeting.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Dave.
David.
He's sneaking out on us. Thank you. The trick is that there's your perception of uniformity and appropriateness, and there's the Historic Preservation Board's perception of uniformity and appropriateness. And this board exists to protect your house beyond your ownership and to protect all the properties in the village beyond their current ownership, so they carry on their historic character. And that is why we are concerned about the addition of materials and architectural features that change the street-facing character of the building. And as I said, there might be, if this board were to vote on an application, a willingness to consider leaving corner boards on other sections of the house, if that was part of an application, which we haven't seen. However, we are asking to maintain the front street-facing appearance of the house without those corner boards, because that does change the character of the house. That does change the appearance of the house.
I'm kind of bewildered by that. Sorry.
I
Could I?
Bewildered by that.
yeah, Kath, go ahead. Thank you.
I hate to delay this any, but is there any way that we could see the faulty joinery that you discovered?
There, I put it in the last month's emails, those photos, and everything. So by simply adding the corner boards to the outside corners, the siding could then be sealed up so that we can protect the rest of the original siding, because we wanted to save as much as possible. We only repaired what was beyond paintable. That was all we were wanting to do. The damage, to cut it back, leave it and put it all back is more costly to them than it would be to add a corner board, which in my mind is the most minor detail that really is not taking anything away to history because they're common use.
But it is taking away from the history of this house. And our concern is the hardship on the house, not the financial hardship on the owner.
Well, wouldn't you want to fix the problem?
Yes, but we want to fix it correctly. The argument that it's more expensive does
Well, it's not
not.
more expensive, we're saying that it fails, and there's no way to seal these up because it's
It's
exposed.
been there 125 years.
There's this one here.
Right, and I get it, it's been there for 125 years, it's the original siding, and now it's failing. And so we have the problem of how to fix it. So it's,
So-
the water is in the in grain, and that's where it's failing, and so this is a way to repair it.
So we ask people to make a replacement or a repair in kind, and that is to do it the way it was done.
But it wasn't done, so this, the how, like Jake explained, the end grains were always exposed. So there was no repair, it was just, it's just the way they put the siding on. And then
Okay.
exposed the house to water in the end grain of that siding.
But after 125 years.
Right, and so
Does it-
now.
You're assuming it's the
No.
same siding, we don't know it's the
And
same
who knows
siding.
how long it's been leaking
It's
for,
the
because
original
it's
siding.
just, we don't know until you take it off.
About 1910,
19.
circa 1910.
I'm not finding my files.
It was built in 1920.
Okay.
This is one shot there. And then if I jump ahead, there's more sort of alternating, one with the other.
I actually think for 125-year-old siding, other than the lack of paint and a few areas that needed infill, it's in pretty good shape.
I have no way as the owner to know that that's the original siding, just because you're saying it, doesn't mean that it is.
But regardless, right? Okay, so it's stood up for 125 years. Wonderful. But it's failing now, so it's not gonna stand up for another 100.
Not to mention, we've already changed
So
the
we
other
need to-
portions of the home.
And I'm just trying to implore to you that we really love this house and we're trying, our best to do what we can do. The roof has failed, we've had to replace that, we've had leaks inside, that house was so neglected by the time we got it that we're doing the best we can to fix it. We're not trying to destroy it, we're not trying to change it, we want it to look beautiful because that's what we fell in love with. But to tell us that, no, you have to leave the end grains exposed and let water continue to damage it is really an answer that we don't really understand.
We've restored the entire home. We've sunk, a couple of $100,000 into this home, restoring it. And now we're like coming down the home stretch, we've got this one little hiccup here because Jackson told us we could do something last year, and you guys are now telling us we can't do it. It's kind of like a little bit of a sour taste in our mouths that we've come into this community, put all this money into a home, and it's like, well, you can't do that because we don't want you to do it.
It's not because we don't want you to do it, it's because we're reading the law. And
Okay,
we're
but Jackson clearly read the law differently.
And is it the fact that.
Jackson didn't even think this process was needed.
That we weren't born and raised here? Because
No, I wasn't, he wasn't, she wasn't, he
I
wasn't.
grew up in the
You were
same
born and
time.
raised here?
No, not really, I thought you meant 125
But there was discussion that we're not from,
Well, that's.
we're out of towners.
That
Yeah, we heard
doesn't-
about that last time when we
No,
were here, that
part of the
because we're out of
discussion
town,
was-
that was a
The
problem.
comment about you being out of town is a concern that if you're not living in the house and if you're renting it,
We're not.
We don't rent the house.
Okay, and
It's
that.
not a dream, we've been thanked by several people on that block that it's no longer a dream park home.
I apologize
It was a
if that
rental.
was, I apologize if that was our understanding. Because there are sometimes people who come into town and do things to a house to turn it into a rental and aren't residents of the community, don't have that accountability. That is sometimes something we've encountered. So
Kind
I'm
of not a
sorry,
great assumption.
I'm sorry for a comment that was made like that, I apologize, but it is a pattern that we've had to deal with. And that does tend to become, people take shortcuts. The ideal solution would be to add siding that's an alternating end grain, like the siding was. That would be the ideal, that is considered the replacement in kind reflected in the law. So you're installing corner boards so you can butt the siding up and
Seals the ends.
but this seals the ends too, the way it
It
alternates.
doesn't seal the ends, that's why we're having this problem.
You're having the problem because it's 125-year-old siding.
You don't know.
We don't know that
And
it's 125
there's no way
years
to
old.
tell how long the problem has been going on.
As
The
somebody
house, we were told the house was completely rebuilt in the 70s by such and such family that lived there for several years. We don't know that they didn't change the siding.
But regardless, so the siding is damaged, and to replace it in the same fashion is going to open it for more damage.
Why is
And
that?
besides the fact that it was replaced with corner boards on most of the house.
That's the problem. We can't do part of the house and not do all of the house. It looks ridiculous.
When was it replaced? When was the corner boards replaced?
Last summer.
So, did you indicate to Jackson that you intended to remove the rest of the siding and replace it the same way last summer?
Yes, I explained to him what we were doing, because there was a complaint that we were putting up corner boards when it didn't have corner boards in that particular section. And he came to see what we were doing. He said, okay, looks fine. And I told him that we were gonna continue to replace the outside corner boards. Because
No,
the,
not replace, you were gonna put on corner boards, right?
You're gonna
Correct.
add.
Add corner
We're gonna
boards,
add
right,
corner boards,
that's, yeah. So the problem we've got here is that somebody told us that this was okay to do. And now you're telling us that it's not okay to do after we've done most of the house that way. So for people that have just moved to this community, it's,
Okay,
we kind
well,
of feel like we're caught in a whiplash
have
here.
you in the last month submitted an application to the Historic Preservation Board? Because that is really the first step in moving this process forward.
I thought we did that last month, no?
no, we came to a meeting because we got
We got the stop work order.
We got stop work order because somebody had complained about what we were doing.
And the complaint was about the corner board?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in a difficult situation because we don't even have an application for the work in terms of the change.
Well, we're in this situation because we got the stop work order, and I thought by coming here to explain what we were doing last month, by simply, because we got the stop work order, that all we want to do is just do a couple more outside corners and be done with this whole thing. That's it.
Has anything moved forward since last month? I haven't been by the
No,
project.
we respected your stop work order. We stopped working, and we've been fixing all the windows and scraping all the paint to paint this place.
Scraping and painting is always been since then.
No, I've done a good job of scraping. Scraping looks good.
Is Keith Barlow back? Is he-
No.
No.
Does anybody know what's going on with Keith Barlow? He has all our flower boxes. We took them off.
I have no idea
When he
what's
started
happening
working,
with
yeah. We can't get him back. It's actually a bit of a problem because he's not returning our calls similar to the way Ron never returned our calls. So we've had kind of a tough go with it, with this home. Not that this is, completely relevant, but when we moved in, we had a neighbor basically claim a whole portion of our property where we had to turn around and get a fresh survey done because they cut our fence down. The fence that was on our property, they cut down because they were trying to make a claim to a third of our property. I then had to get a survey done, charges against them for cutting the fence down. Our fence was stacked up in their yard. They cut it down while we were
It's
away.
not really relevant though. But
I'm
I'm just saying,
I'm just
like,
trying to give you a picture of what we've been through since we
the
moved
welcome
here.
to Cooperstown
Right,
sign.
the welcome to
That's
Cooperstown
pretty-
sign has been
that's
pretty
pretty
bleak.
un- That's pretty
Pretty bleak.
unusual that, that's unneighborly and unusual, and again, I'm sorry about that. It sounds like you've had a cumulative.
Phyllis and Marianne.
Phyllis's boyfriend cut it down.
Oh.
In cahoots
And it was
with her.
stacked up in Marianne and Mark's.
Where it sat for a year. We not only had to have it cut down while we were away, we had to look at it through our window.
Anyway, that was month two
Yeah.
of home ownership, yeah.
Okay.
But that was several years ago, we're moving past it.
Do other members of the board have questions or comments?
My comment would be, just finish painting the house blue at this point, honestly. But on the front one, scrape it down and try and clean up the corners, because it's the front-facing facade, and that's not uncommon to see that kind of work done. And that's why they put corner boards on the back porch when they built the new back porch. I don't know who did the back porch,
We
wasn't
don't have a back porch.
She's talking about the.
Yeah, you have an
Oh, the
enclosed.
kitchen, I see
Yeah,
what
you
you're saying.
have an, you have an
And that's what I was
enclosed-
saying,
you have an
there's
enclosed
corner boards
porch.
on
You're thinking, you
Well,
have,
that's our kitchen.
yeah, and then you have the deck.
So what you're suggesting, Jesse, is that we finish painting the house, but leave the front corners as they are.
Yeah, and I think they can probably be worked on to, if you prime them, and then you putty them, and then you prime them again, and put 2 coats of paint on them, they will be fine.
That's not the question.
That's not really,
That's not the problem. We're going to
pride
see.
myself in doing a good job in fixing houses correctly. And, so that I don't get a call back or nothing happens.
If you do 2 coats and you do it properly, you won't be getting a call back.
Jesse, that
I
doesn't
know.
change the fact that half of the house is one way and the other half is now not the same way. And we're in this pickle because of something Jackson did. He gave approval. Maybe he was wrong to do that. I understand that. But now we're like halfway
Because
through
he
the
wasn't
process.
looking at an application that outlined what your
He
plans
didn't think it
were.
required an application. He didn't think that what we were doing required an application.
And I honestly don't think it's fair to throw Jackson under the bus if he's not here to defend himself or to contribute to the conversation. What we are asking for is a compromise. We're asking that the front of the house,
Be left unprotected,
Yes.
other than
Yeah.
paint.
Jesse, in your opinion, is there any way for them to salvage the corners successfully for years to come?
Yeah, I think that if it were, I think it would work fine. It's meant, and the reason it would work fine, you only need to look at the dormer up the top. It's protected by a very deep overhang, it faces north, it's not getting ultraviolet light.
About 18 inches.
And so what you need to do is you need to put enough primer on there and then enough paint to protect your primer. Because primer is what you put on your house to protect your house, not paint. Paint protects the primer. So the primer underneath, 2 coats of primer with the putty coat with the putty in between. And put 2 good quality coats of paint on top. If you want at the corners, put a 3rd coat.
There's an old saying that says caulk and paint will make a carpenter what he ain't.
I didn't say caulk.
There's caulk and paint that make a carpenter what he ain't.
I did not say caulk. I said
With
putty,
putty.
and it is a different product and it behaves differently.
I know all about it. I've
So-
been doing this my entire life.
Yep.
And that's not a good repair. It doesn't hold up. I'm just being honest.
Let's fast forward. If we look
I would
at
guess
Jesse's
you'd
plan
get
and it
20.
fails,
I think
and we
you
have
would-
damage,
I think you
is
would
the
get
town
20.
of
I think you
Cooperstown
get-
gonna pay for it to get fixed if
I think
it
you get
doesn't
20
hold?
years and if
No.
you kept paint on it, you'd be fine.
But you
what if
do
it- what if it's
understand,
not,
we're in
Jesse?
this position
What if-
because of Jackson. I mean, you're
we-
saying we're throwing
I'm
one of
just
the
saying,
bus.
right.
The conversation took place.
No,
I mean,
Regardless of that, if
We're not
our
making things
contractor
up.
is recommending this, and he's saying, I wanna do good work, and I don't want the work to fail. And Jesse says, just paint it in some
No, I'm not
putty,
saying just paint it.
primer and paint it, and
That
it'll
is-
be
that's
fine.
a total-
To which he disagrees. So you guys have a disagreement. You
Right.
think primer and paint will fix it, he thinks it won't. If it fails, is the town of Cooperstown going to repair it?
no.
Well, then, why should we listen to your recommendation on repair
What you
quality
do is-
versus a contractor?
Let me explain. When you paint, you continue to paint. When you paint something, you're gonna have to look at it every year and you need to make a decision. But if you do that properly, you'll get 20 years out of those corners.
And what
And
if
then-
you're wrong?
But it's still, we still have half a house with corner
Forget
boards
that
and
point.
half a
Just
house
forget
with.
that point.
Well, honey, that's the point.
But they're not going to yield on that point.
This is his.
So what
They're
if
not
you're
gonna yield
alone,
either way.
Jesse, and the contractor is saying, I don't want to leave your wood exposed, I don't think it's
You're not.
quality?
You're not.
You have a difference of opinion, so how can we
No.
rely on your opinion versus his?
Well,
Let me,
that is,
let me try and, if you stop jumping down my throat, I will try and explain this to you. The lumber that is on the building right now is old growth lumber. If you saw through it, you will find that the growth rings are teeny tiny, 12, 14, 16 growth rings to the inch. If you put paint on it, if you prime it, which is the most important thing, is primer on that paint. When you put up new siding, just look at the siding, just look at the new siding before it goes on the building. What you're seeing is maybe 4 growth rings because it's plantation lumber and it is squishy. And yes, that end grain will certainly fail, even with good primer and good paint on it. But the old growth lumber that is very tightly ringed, which is what you've got, it's old white pine.
But that's already rotted, Jesse.
So-
It's
so
not
sorry.
rotted. It is not
Come,
rotted.
Just again, I appreciate
It's
your
weathered,
knowledge
it's
base,
not
Jesse. I'm not
Okay.
jumping down your throat, I appreciate your knowledge base.
But
I don't know anything about wood and that's not my profession. I hired somebody who is a professional and I trust his opinion. So this is what I'm telling you, I'm not going to climb a ladder on the house and look at the rings on the wood. You're suggesting a solution and my contractor is saying that solution is not a good solution, it's not going to work and the wood is going to fail. And so I'd like to rely on my contractor's opinion because I hired him because he's got a great reputation and he does good work.
I have to ask you to pause there. The reason the people on this board sit on this board is not because we're old Cooperstown, not because we want to torture people and don't have anything better to do with our time. It's because we have experience with historic preservation and architectural design. Over 30 years experience in the maintenance and preservation of historic structures. Over 30 years experience as an architectural historian. I don't even want to guess how many decades this guy has in him, but he has a lot of experience in design and historic preservation in other historic districts as well. Dave brings significant experience to the table. Dave, who left.
We know you're very experienced.
But
Can I ask you one question?
I need you to finish, let me finish saying what I'm saying. One of the reasons we ask the property owners to appear in front of the board, not the contractors, is so we can have a conversation sharing our, at this table, 100 years of
I get that.
experience.
I think that's great.
And our wisdom with you about how historic materials will respond to the proper care and maintenance.
I understand.
And so that is why we are encouraging you to maintain your historic materials
Understand.
and maintain the historic appearance.
Right. Again, my point is, now that we've already done these other corner boards, am I gonna be able to find another house in Cooperstown that is a similar home to ours, that has corner boards on one half of it and now corner boards on the front of it? You know, I get the whole, we can
Yes,
fix the
actually,
weather
you
thing.
I'm here to tell you, you can find plenty of those because people have done all kinds of work at various times through the village, and so yes, you would easily find
When we
all
made
of
the
those.
decision to put corner boards on, which was about a 30-second conversation and decision, it was under the understanding that we were going to put them all the way around the home, not 2/3 of the way around the home.
And we could say you could remove the others, then you will have uniformity.
Well,
And that would be our,
that's impossible.
that would be our suggestion. It is not impossible.
It would be very
And so if you did your 125-year-old beautiful house, and I'm not saying that with anything but all sincerity, the disservice of making a 30-second decision to put corner boards on the house, I would ask you to really weigh that heavily.
I think he was being sarcastic when he said a 30-second decision.
Okay.
But besides that,
Basically the
like,
second time you've insulted us.
Besides.
I do not mean to insult you.
You just did.
But I'm sorry, and you did say you made a 30-second decision, so I wasn't assuming it was sarcasm, I was assuming it was a quick decision, okay? So I
Well, you're also
apologize if I
basically telling us that
insulted
we're
you.
making up the story about Jackson, right?
I'm just saying Jackson's not here to defend
Right.
himself.
So we
I'm
made
not
this whole
saying-
thing up.
No, can I interrupt with?
Sure.
Are we agreed on what the type of the house is? Jesse?
It's essentially a prairie, it's a prairie influenced 20th century craftsman style house. It's prairie influenced, but it's a craftsman house.
So we think of it as an American Foursquare house. That's what it
Which
looks
is
like
what
in
the previous
architecture.
owner-
You think it's an American Foursquare?
American
Yes.
Foursquare.
It would be a
It's got
mod-
4 corners, it's got 4 rooms downstairs, which is a traditional style. Hallway, living room, dining room, kitchen.
Four squares
Upstairs,
are usually more vertical.
4
Okay, now.
bedrooms
this is
upstairs
where
in
I'm
the
gonna
4 corners.
disagree.
So it's an American
I have an
Foursquare
American,
with
I have an
2
American
porches.
Foursquare house in Maryland.
Mm.
And it, as far as I know, there's been no alteration to the house. It has corner boards.
But this
It's a
is
different-
bungalow, this is
No,
prairie style.
this is a bungalow?
This is prairie style,
No, it's
excuse me.
American
This is
Foursquare.
Foursquare.
So if you look, it's, this
The
is.
person that
this is-
remodeled the house was wrote for an architectural magazine.
So-
He referred to it as an American
This is-
Foursquare house.
This is a picture of our house.
This
This
is your
is our-
house.
What
This
is
is an
the?
The
American
realtor sold it to us
Foursquare.
as an American Foursquare, Natasha.
But did the realtor, does the realtor have 30 years in historic preservation and
But
right,
it's an American Foursquare.
National Register nominations
What
for
I'm gonna
And I
people
think-
all over the country?
This is a prairie house, that's an example of a prairie house, that's an example of a prairie house or a
For sure.
As I
craftsman
say,
house.
They
This
look
is
exactly
an
like our
American
home. They all
Foursquare.
have corner boards.
This is an American Foursquare, they
You-
look just like ours
You
with
can find
this,
examples of houses
point,
with
with
corner
the
boards,
windows,
but
with
you
the
can
porches,
also find
and they all
examples
have corner
without.
boards on them. So I think,
at
you
this
know,
point, why don't we just knock the building down?
there's the
and return
material
house?
and kind because it already had corner boards.
Because it's our home and we'd like to live in the house. What do you mean knock the building down? What does that mean?
I mean, we're
Is
just.
that, now it's the 3rd time I've been insulted.
I'm sorry, I think I.
Seriously,
Come on,
why would you
guys.
say
Wait,
knock
wait,
the
wait.
building down? What does that mean?
Come on, guys. Let's back
Did you
off.
hear what she just said? Why don't we just knock the building down?
I'm.
That's on the record, right?
Yeah, it's being big.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh, okay.
I'm
But
at
can we
I'm
back
at the
up?
point where I'm tired of being yelled at.
I'm tired of being insulted. You just told me we should knock the building down.
So,
I was, okay, your 30-second decision, that was my off the cuff, I'm tired, you know, this has gone beyond discussion or
Okay,
conversation.
so you guys are deciding.
This has gone to some sort of a shouting match, and I think that's not an acceptable behavior in a public meeting, unless you're in the House of Lords or the House of Commons. At this point, I would recommend the compromise that was offered at the last meeting. But I'm not the person who has the full say, and what I can also tell you is that you can find many examples, nowhere near as many as with corner boards. As I say, corner boards are certainly more common. When you start talking about architectural style, especially once you leave the identified styles of the mid-1800s, and you start moving into eclectic buildings that are built using published builder's plans rather than being built by a builder who was not using plans at all, you've stepped into a minefield where it's just not worth talking about a specific style name. Many houses were built using builder's plans that were drawn by Scientific American, by building companies, by all different kinds of companies, and they were pulling from all kinds of inspiration. By the time you get to 1912, you are seeing prairie influence in a lot of buildings. Prairie influence is the horizontality. It is, and you see it much more commonly, yes, in Oneonta, and in Oneonta, it's because, but there were people up here who were using Oneonta designers, because there were more people working in Oneonta than up here in the trades. The place where trades boomed in Otsego County 20th century is not here. It booms in Onion because Onion's population was growing by 10,000, it was growing by thousands every year. And so that's where a lot of the builders are coming from.
But you're basically saying it's more historically accurate to have corner boards on homes in Cooperstown than it is in Onion, so why can't we have corner boards in Cooperstown?
We are basing our argument on the historic
house.
images of your house.
I understand that.
It did not have corner boards.
I completely understand that.
And that is.
We were told last summer we could put corner boards on. That's where we are.
And,
We'll just leave.
and
The answer's no, right?
we don't have an application. We have offered a compromise. We normally don't even talk to people without an application.
Okay, should we do an application
You
and
can
then?
make an application and come and make a presentation. We have offered a compromise, which is very unusual for us, and asking you to not have corner boards on the street-facing portions of the house.
So that's not gonna change.
So we have to go away and discuss
All right.
whether we
Okay.
accept
Or you
their
can-
compromise or whether we come
You
back.
can
to
come
it.
back with an
There's no point
application
arguing.
for the next
Okay.
meeting,
Okay.
okay? So that which is what we would normally do,
Okay.
okay? So, Chris, the applications are due around the first of the month. I'm trying to remember.
We asked for applications to come 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
And I understand you guys have an important job to do in this community. I totally get that. I do, sincerely. And I thank you for the job.
Let's go.
Thank you. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, then. Okay, if we've reviewed the minutes, we have, do we need to do any other business before we adjourn the meeting?
And then I'm aware.
Okay, I'm sorry, we did not get to say a more formal thank you to Dave Sanford for all his service.
I agree.
And do we need to recruit?
We do.
his-
It was my understanding that Ellen had appointed a new alternate who was supposed to be here.
Is that Bernie? Yeah, who's-
No, another new alternate who was supposed to be here tonight as well. Bernie did